Almost every day now I go down some sort of nostalgic rabbit hole when it comes to media. Today was no exception. I spent the day watching old Ernest P. Worrell commercials. You know, the ones that, before they did the movies, the ones in the 80s. I didn't grow up with them. I had just heard about them, and so I finally sat down and watched some of the compilations they have on YouTube today, and boy howdy, were those special. Were those fun? Today's advertisements, I can't get rid of them fast enough, but these advertisements, I looked forward to each new one. I didn't care what it was for. It was just fun. This was one of the most effective ad campaigns in American history. It was absolutely unbelievable. And it was so simple. You look at today's advertisements and how much they spend. They must have spent a fraction of that on these Ernest ads. They reused sets. They advertised a lot of the same products. But it was entertaining. The fact that I can sit and watch two nearly hour-long ad campaigns with ads on top of each other and bloopers. It was great. Rest in peace, Jim Varney. But it all got me thinking, as I usually do when I go back and watch old entertainment. What the heck happened? How did we get to the 2020s, supposed to be the golden age of technology and entertainment, and yet a lot of it sucks, and so much of it does? And I think it's because we overstretched. We went too far with the technology. We went too far with trying to entertain to the point where we have to go over the top all the time. And worse yet, everything has to contain some sort of social messaging, whether you agree with it or not. You can't just have things that are neutral anymore. Everything has to remind you of, we got to save the environment. We have to elevate these people. They can never be made fun of or portrayed in a negative way for fun. We can't make fun of ourselves anymore. We can't have any sort of levity anymore. Whereas back in the day, we used to make fun of everything under the sun. And yes, it was controversial, but people were able to loosen up and laugh and enjoy themselves. We can't do that anymore because we're so concerned about negative stereotypes and all sorts of negativity and so on and so forth. Back in the day, that really wasn't that big of a factor. Maybe for some people. But now, you have to tiptoe around everything. Just everything. You're walking on eggshells all the time. So entertainment isn't free to just be entertainment. There are obviously people who don't care and they're entertained by whatever. But on the mainstream, there's rules now that there weren't before. And they're more strict. Whereas back in the day, you could have a simple commercial with some redneck sitting there, not the most literate guy all the time, but he was selling you Sprite and dairy products and gas appliances and cars. And it was great. It was truly great. You know, we look back at the old days before the internet dominated just about everything. And a lot of us go, man, I want to go back. And some people scoff at that. They go, why on earth would you want to go back to a time where you had less technology or you had less, of today's conveniences? My answer to that is simple. Because it was more simple. Yeah, some things were more complex, but there was more of a human element to how we were doing life that really just doesn't exist today in a lot of areas of life. A lot of our humanity has been stripped from us, and not a lot of us are trying to get it back. I'm proactively working to try to get it back. I'm really looking at 2024 and saying, I might want to strip myself of as much social media as possible. Really just black out social media and parts of the internet just so I can go back to the way things used to be. Read more comics, read more books, get in scripture more, just start peeling back all the layers of things that were built up over the years because I can't stand it anymore. I hate streaming. I'd rather watch linear television, even if it's, just old stuff marathoned, I don't care. At least it was good. If there's a marathon on insert network here of an old show that I grew up with or even was before my time, I love channels like Grit and Laugh, Laugh with two F's, and Antenna TV and Me TV, where it's just a bunch of old-fashioned programming that's entertaining and funny. I love that. I absolutely love that. I would rather have that than today's filth, which is promoting all forms of sexual promiscuity, and the humor is mean-spirited and just nihilistic. I talked about how I don't like today's adult cartoons. You look at old Simpsons and how great that used to be, and now today everything is just horrifically mean-spirited and terrible. And I don't like it. I absolutely don't like it. It's all just awful. But yet the further back in time I go, the better things were. It's not just nostalgia glasses. If you can watch it and it's just as enjoyable then as it is now, it's not rose-tinted glasses, it's authentic. So there's definitely something to the way life used to be and the way entertainment used to be. But yet I think it's frustrating for a lot of us because we're constantly being gaslit either by younger generations or by other people in our own generations who go, yeah, well, it wasn't as great as you think. It wasn't as great as you think. Oh yeah? A lot of my family members were still alive back then. A lot of the places that I used to love to go still existed and meet people and congregate. People don't want to meet and congregate today because they're all afraid of each other. People don't want to date. They don't want to get together. They don't want to have kids. That was something that scared the ever-loving crap out of me. I was looking at some of the declining birth rates and news about it, and there were dozens upon dozens of people cheering on not having children. Now look, I'm 31 as of the recording of this. I don't, as of yet, have any children. I'm not planning on it. I'm not dating either. But it's not for a lack of desire so much as it's not where my life is right now. I've always said if God is open to something different, I'm open to it. But there are so many people who are like, nope, I will never have children. I will never get married. I won't even be in a relationship. I'm just going to live on an island and try to make social relationships work. If our ancestors had that mentality, we wouldn't exist. But yet this is a popular mentality in the 21st century, at this point in the 21st century, and it's truly frightening. No, I'm not going to bring children into the world because it's selfish, it's a financial burden, and on and on and on and on it goes. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of kids, but I don't hate kids to the point where any reason I wouldn't have them is like some of these people, where it's just vindictive and mean-spirited and selfish. No, I want to be free for the rest of my life. What does that even mean? It's absurd. The world has become a worse place, ladies and gentlemen. There's no getting around it. Almost every sentiment I see echoed is that the world has become a worse place. That's one of the reasons people don't want children, is because they don't want to raise them in this world. That I can semi-understand. It still doesn't feel like an excuse when you look at the circumstances that children were born in the 20th century and prior. But still, people are concerned because things aren't what they should be. We've made things worse. And I think the only way that we make things better, number one, our entertainment has to go back to being good. I think that's the first step. People need more escapism that they can turn to, and that can bring people together as opposed to divide them. We're in this seemingly endless culture war where everything is a battle. Every day something is a battle. And that has carried over to our entertainment because Hollywood is infatuated with wokeness. They're infatuated with this idea that everybody has to be equally celebrated. Well, some people do, and other people don't. And it's really absurd. And it's creating a lot of problems because people turn to Hollywood for escapism and entertainment. They can't anymore. Mostly because they go to the internet to find it. And I spend most of my time, again, on the internet looking at old stuff, not even really new stuff. Just compilations of old shows and commercials and making that experience like watching old TV again. The fact that I long for that. Yeah, I can turn on I've still got linear broadcast TV. I can still watch that. But it's either compilations of old stuff that's been seen a million times. It's not a show I particularly cared for back in the day. or it's a bunch of new stuff that I'm just completely disconnected with. There's barely any middle ground. And I think networks are starting to bring back old stuff in variety. They're starting to get more licenses back so that they can have varieties of programming. And I think that that's a good thing. I think more people should be watching linear TV than streaming and on-demand stuff. Not because on-demand isn't convenient, because I know people are going to say, well, I don't have the time. That's another issue. People don't make time for anything. They don't make time for each other. They don't make time for entertainment. They certainly don't make time to be in the Word and to pursue God. That's a whole nother video. But they don't make time for anything. You try to make plans with people, they're busy all the dang time. And maybe for some people that's how it always was. Everybody lives differently, of course. But to me, ever since I was a teenager, it always felt like people weren't making time for each other. And so as a result, culture has just become empty and lifeless and lacking hardly anything. We're just going through the motions till we die. Nobody wants to live that way. Doesn't matter what age they are. But yet here we are. We're going through the motions, and technology keeps perpetuating. We look like zombies staring at our phone screens, looking for something to keep us entertained. And yet, are we? We're not. I've noticed there's a lot of older stuff coming back in vogue because people are learning to appreciate older things. Their kids learning to appreciate flip phones. Older fashion is coming into vogue. Fashion that never really went away, but it's still just good. You were lied to and convinced you need something new that isn't as good. So now companies are starting to see people want the older stuff. They're starting to produce the older stuff. There is a demand, there is a need to go back to simpler things and simpler times. And I couldn't be happier about it, and I hope it increases. Because at the end of the day, we don't need the newest, flashiest, most expensive thing. The economy is shuddering, and I think that's part of the reason why. And so people want more simplicity in many ways. Yeah, there are some things that you really can't go back. But there's a lot of things where you can. And we're just ignoring the fact that you can. We're saying, no, we got to push forward. Progress at all. I hate progress at all costs. Such a stupid mentality because it's not always necessary. The old saying rings true. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yet we're trying to fix so many things that aren't broken in our culture. It's resulted in us being overwhelmed by the constant need to progress to nowhere. It's on a train to nowhere. It's a dead-end track. This is where we're at in culture, and it feels like most people are just zombies. You go out in public and try to interact with people, and they're always weary because they see so much bad news. They're inundated with such bad news every single day. They don't know how to treat each other. They don't know how to interact with each other. They don't know what to think of each other. Men and women don't interact if they're single. They don't try to get together and build a relationship. Because they're both worried about either getting Me Too'd or assaulted or something terrible. We've built social barriers that are unnatural. And so everybody's trying to be sort of on this island, and it's an ever-shrinking island. We're not interacting with each other in any sort of healthy manner. It's all breaking down. And our entertainment reflects this. It reflects the bad world that we live in. And it is a bad world. It was a bad world back in the day, too, but guess what? We tried to make it better. We tried to make it better in a way that wasn't just calling certain people out and trying to preach to people. We did it in a way that felt more organic. And we relied on escapism as a form of escape. Just temporary escape. And ultimately, I think we need to go back to that. We need to go back to true escapism. People need to create things that are fun again and not be worried about the response. People are so worried about the response. They're worried about what the Twitter mob. Who gives a crap what the Twitter mob has to say? Who cares? I'm not even on Twitter anymore. It's just a cesspool of over-opinionated people who only care about themselves and the way that they see the world. Who cares? When did we let them rule everything? The second the corporations decided their opinion mattered is when everything went downhill. Because now everything has to go through a social justice woke filter. where everything under the sun has to be politically correct to the worst degree ever. And yes, I understand this stuff started a long time ago, but social media exacerbated it. Back in the day, this stuff was easier to ignore. I want to go back to the days of characters like Ernest. I want to go back to simple advertisement for products that's not in your face. Doesn't have those stupid hip-hop bass lines and loud music that's constantly in your face. Just simple advertisement of products and people extolling the virtues of a product, so that people can make up their own minds, as opposed to just shoving something in your face with bright lights and really bad graphics and horrific music. I'm sick of that. It's these people who never got the chance to make certain music videos or movies or TV shows, so they're in these ad agencies. And they're always going over the top and blowing budgets on things, and it's never effective. It's never effective, especially because prices are going up. Present me cheap products that are good. And that's a whole nother video, is the quality of overall products today has gone down. We're paying more and getting less. The whole world is just upside down, ladies and gentlemen. I think we all know this. But it's up to us to build a better one and to defy. We need to be defying the status quo of today. We need to be defying the misery of today and creating joy and not being afraid of our own shadow. If we're going to make comedy, make it about whatever we want. Just say whatever you want. Do whatever you want. You're going to offend people. So what? I don't care if people are offended. Not everything is for everybody. The mentality in Hollywood and entertainment is that everything has to be for everybody. That's bullcrap. Whenever you try to do that, you please no one. And somebody still ends up getting offended. So why not just go the full way, knowing that people will still be offended? It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, there's going to be stuff that offends my sensibilities. There were back in the day. You know what I did? I changed the channel. I turned off the TV. Or when it was the internet, I went to a different website. If it was YouTube, I clicked on a different video. We need to go back to the days of live and let live, and understanding that not everything is for everybody. Because so many parts of the mainstream entertainment industry are concerned about pleasing every group of people that demands to be pleased, instead of just trying to please a general audience. Does the general audience even exist anymore? I don't know that it does. I really don't. And if it does, it's being buried. We need to go back to go forward, instead of just blindly going forward and walking on eggshells everywhere in the hopes that somebody doesn't make an article talking about how racist or sexist or homophobic you are. It's so dumb. Political correctness is one of the worst things to happen to our society, because it has handicapped our entertainment. It's why I spend all my time, when it comes to entertainment, on old stuff. Barely anything new. Barely anything new, unless it's independently produced, and the people behind it, their goal is to make entertainment the way that it used to be. And there are those people out there, but they don't have Hollywood budgets. They don't have Hollywood resources. So you gotta wait, and sometimes it's not always good. But I still give it a shot, because I know it's going to be better than anything coming out of Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Universal, even their quote-unquote good stuff. I can't even bother with anymore. I just don't care. I'm so disenfranchised to these corporations, because they have spent years and years and years trying to create this politically correct atmosphere, and I'm tired of it. Just make fun entertainment. Let your creators make what they want to make without regret. It's either for you or it isn't. Not everything is for everybody. Everybody has their own niche. Let them have that. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Let me know what you think down in the comments below of all this, and I will see you guys next time. This has been Super Koopa TV. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.